Good morning to all that are listening. This morning, I'm kind of in a bad place of feelings because of how we were treated while my son was attempting to jump off a bridge. It's horrible to even think of your child committing suicide. But what's even worse is when you call for help and the officer calls you a sack full of rats on acid and starts screaming, "Get out of my road." And he's not even in city limits. Now, I am very upset about it because as a mother, that's the last thing I want to hear you saying, is that we are all a sack full of rats on acid. When I'm calling for help, and the reason the cars were lined up was to stop my son from getting to the bridge, to stop him getting to the bridge until help arrived. That's why the cars were lined up in the road. And for us to be called a sack full of rats on acid because we tried to save one of our own is wrong. And he needs to be fired. He needs to be fired because he does not have any regard for life, humanity. At this point, I don't even think he probably even respects himself. How can you call somebody that when they're trying to save their child? When they're trying to save another life? How do you fix your mouth to say that? I'm waiting on the mayor to call me. I'm going to do whatever I can do within my means because I'm not on acid. You're not going to lie on me. I'm not on acid. Tell me I got too much God, and I'll admit to that. But I'm not on acid, and I'm clearly not a rat. I'm a mother who's fighting for her child. That's who I am. I am a mother who is fighting for her mentally ill son, who half the time does not even know he's in a world, in this world, except for his own reality. His own reality, which is not real. Now, I'm hurt this morning, and I tried to ignore it and let it go, but I can't. I can't let it go because if no one had been out there that night, what would have happened to him? If no one had followed the officers to the hospital, would he have made it? My concern is we have officers who think it's cool to call people out of their names just because we're not rich. We're still people. Just because we may not live in the finest area, we are still people. We are still people. We are not rats. We are not on acid. You can't help who is mentally ill. You can't help that. You can't help who is mentally ill. But what you can do is try to help prolong their life. When we call officers, we call for help. And I've learned not to call officers unless we really need the help. Because of previous things that have happened with my son being beat. Because I tried to get him to a hospital. Because I tried to get him to the hospital. He was beat then. And it's just a shame. It's a shame what we are having to go through and being called just because we call for help out there for him. You know, it's my thing that police officers are supposed to help protect, to guard, to keep safety for the community and safety for those who may be able to hurt themselves. Your job is not to call me or my family a sack full of rats on acid. That's not your job. You are authority. We are to listen to you. But I refuse to let you get away with calling me a sack full of rats on acid or my family. It's uncalled for. And this morning, I just feel it deeper than ever. Those words, which let me know you did not care anything about what you were doing out there. You were just trying to get back to your riding around so you wouldn't have to write paperwork. That's what it lets me know. That you did not have concern for a human life. But I'm just, I'm just at a loss for words right now. At how difficult it is in Montgomery County, North Carolina, to get the help that we really need. You're supposed to patrol these areas. Prevent. You're supposed to prevent things from happening. You're supposed to do your best to save another human. And you shouldn't do it and downgrade the family while doing so. Everybody is not on drugs. Some of us live nice, godly lives. My connection keeps messing up. But is that how we talk to parents now? Parents who are hurting, who are doing everything that they can to ensure that their children are safe. Is that how we talk to the mentally ill who are sometimes incompetent and cannot understand, cannot speak for themselves clearly, cannot understand clearly? Is this how we treat them? You are supposed to work with your community, not go against them. You are supposed to work with them. You are supposed to identify the problems and the disorder that's going on, not degrade the citizens that are trying to be helpful. The citizens that are trying to live right. You're not supposed to degrade them. You're supposed to find solutions. Help us find solutions. The solution was to get my son to the mental hospital. Get him to any hospital, the closest hospital. It was not for you to tell me that I am a sack of rats on acid. Because I'm not. I'm not that. I am a child of God. I am a mother who is 42 years old, fighting for my children. Fighting for their lives. Because my son can't help himself. So I called for help. I couldn't stop him from heading to that bridge. We lined that cars up. Yes, there was a lot of us out there. It was because we didn't deserve. You are a man just like I am a woman. I would not give you the opportunity. You can say what you want, but I will not drop down to your level of name calling. I know good police officers when I see them. I respect authority figures. I did nothing that night to disrespect any authority figure. I did nothing but make sure that my son was put in that car safely. And to be called a sack full of rats on acid, do you know what that is? Do you know how degrading that is? Do you know what you are saying? Yes, you do know what you're saying. You're saying basically that we're not worth saving. That we're not even worth coming out to, responding to. That's what that means to me. That we wasted your time. That's exactly what it means to me. That we wasted your time. It says to me that you didn't care if my son had hurt himself or not because he was a sack full of rats on acid. It says to me that you based him. You based his current condition off of what you thought to be. And not what was. As my son laid over that car, and before you got there, he had a seizure. That's why his eyes were spaced out. He had a seizure. He had not had any drugs all day long. Because I followed him. Like any mother would do. At one point he said, "Mama, you babysitting me." I said, "You're doggone right. Because that's what mothers do." But for you to assume that we are a sack full of rats on acid, you deserve to be fired. Without any pay or anything. You do not need to be an officer. Because what you are doing is profiling. You're profiling ahead of time. Before you even know what's going on. You're profiling. That's what you're doing. And I hope they fire you. I really do. Because we don't need officers like you on the force. Hurting families that are already going through. We don't need that. Disrespectful officers. And he was not being violent. So it was no reason for the name calling. Because like I said, he was already having a seizure. Unnecessary. My connection keeps going in and out. But if you think that saving a life is wrong and being human is wrong, then you need to be evaluated yourself. And that's all I got to say about that. Is that you was wrong for calling us a sack full of rats on acid. Because you was so far from the truth. What you ran up with was a mother and her family trying to save a son, a nephew, a father, an uncle. That's what you ran up with. And I'm going to make sure that people know who you are. So that when they see you, they'll know that's the man right there. We got to watch him. We got to be careful. And do I disrespect officers? No, I never have disrespected any officer. I have never called the police or 911